Among those questioning BP's Tony Hayward today. We're going to be continuing to monitor this hearing. If there are any fireworks on it, we'll, of course, bring you right to it. Congresswoman, very good to have you. Thanks for coming.
Good to be back, Neil.
Is it your sense that $20 billion is enough? Because that prompted this talk that it amounted to a shakedown.
Well, $20 billion is certainly a good start on BP making good its promise that it will repay the damages from the explosion in the Gulf. So it's a start. I don't think any of us know how much this catastrophe is going to cost yet.
But you're saying by it being a start that it's a minimum figure, $20 billion at a minimum.
Well, I hope it doesn't cost $20 billion. I'll tell you, my committee had field hearings down in the Gulf last week, and we heard from fishermen and small business people and others who are losing all of their summer income because of this catastrophe. So, and they haven't been reimbursed really very much, if anything, to date by BP. So I think this fund will be good. I'm thrilled that there's going to be an independent administrator that'll weigh the claims and then pay the claims. It's just what BP has said all along that they would do, and I'm pleased that BP yesterday entered into the agreement to set up the fund and to fund it at $20 billion.
But you see what I mean, Congressman? No, you see what I mean? With the best of intent, ma'am, what I'm saying here happens is it's a start. This $20 billion is a start. It's up to BP to get these folks paid. But now it's in the hand of this independent arbiter. So if anything's going to slow the process, it isn't BP now. They've got that $20 billion credit line there for you. It will be the process that was established by the president, right?
But what we heard last week in the Gulf was, although BP had said they were going to reimburse people, most of the small businesses down there had not seen a dime, even though they had given BP all their paperwork to show what their losses were. So what this fund will do is let an independent third party, the same guy who did the 9/11 fund, and everybody agreed on a bipartisan basis that that worked, to submit their claims and to allow those claims to be paid.
Yes, but as you know, Congresswoman, those claims, again, and it might have been right for the time, it might be right now, but a lot of those claims were years off in being paid. So we might face the same dilemma now.
We need to get those claims paid now. We heard from a shrimper last week who had paperwork, who had all the documents in order from May of last year, and he grossed $26,000 in a comparable month last year. He gave that paperwork to BP, and BP gave him $5,000. We heard from another small businessman, a property manager, who gave all the paperwork to BP and has gotten nothing yet, and is struggling to try to find small business loans so he can make it through the summer.
I think you're right. I mean, it's a slow boat to China plan here. You're quite right about that. But it's certainly, in the case of the 9/11 Victims Fund, I remember that was many years before a lot of the victims were even tangentially compensated. So, again, with the best of intentions, you might have, again, signed on to a prescription that is going to get delayed here.
Well, I'll tell you what, our committee intends to hold everybody's feet to the fire to make sure that these folks get compensated. It's really been a 1, 2, 3
ma'am, I didn't see that.
punch.
I saw BP being held to the fire, and it's quite rightly so. It did create this leak, and it did create this mess. But any time someone else was trying...
BP is at blame here.
But you just said you're going to hold everyone accountable for making sure that they act to deal with compensation issues. But now what I'm saying here is that there are many other parties to blame, and when some of your colleagues brought up some of the very same safety officials who botched things, they were shut down. I guess what I'm wondering is this all going to be focused on BP and what it botched, or, as you indicated, open up to everybody to make sure that who's ever to blame, whatever administrative body is stalling this, is dealt with?
Absolutely. And in fact, Neil, this committee has already had hearings where we brought the subcontractors in. The Committee on Natural Resources, which has jurisdiction over the Interior Committee and MMS, has also brought those people in, and we're expecting more hearings this week and next week. So everybody who's to blame here is going to be brought in. The thing we're concerned about today, and the thing we want to know, is we want to get compensation out to these victims in the Gulf, and I think everybody wants that.
All right. So, but in the 9/11 thing, I'll just echo this one last time. Many waited for years. If they have to wait for years in this case, do you think that...
That's unacceptable.
All right. It happened.
That's unacceptable. We're not going to make them wait for years. When we had our hearing last week in the Gulf, we found out that although BP had said people would be compensated right away, they weren't being compensated. And the president found that out too. That's when he brought BP in to set up this fund. We're going to look at the fund with the same kind of a close look. If they wait for years to compensate victims, it's not going to.
But I will say, I'm sorry to badger this one. I just want to be clear that this 9/11 that you held up as a standard took years to pay off. That's the one quality, the one aspect that you do not want to see here, though, right?
Absolutely. We do not want to see it, and we won't stand for it.
That I understand. All right, Congresswoman, thank you very much.
Good to be with you.
Point now to a White House expert speaking out today against the president.